Apparently when you buy a very expensive camera, there are more technical issues with that camera than there were before. I don't know how that's supposed to work and why that happens, but apparently that's what I've had to contend with today. Not terribly pleased by that, and frankly, I don't even know how I'm supposed to set everything up and actually see what I'm doing properly. So it'll be interesting to see if my head winds up pointing in all sorts of bizarre directions. So I apologize, I am late. Okay, but everything started to happen, and I have no more excuses. I'm going to put up a poll, and my suggestion is grab some food, some drink, get comfortable, and we are going to talk about running Ravenloft as a one-shot for Halloween. That was the topic, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Hi, Todd. How's it going? Todd is a patron on Patreon and supports me, so I can keep doing this sort of thing. This is the end of the week special, you might say, where I discuss stuff and hopefully get a chance to reveal a few things that you probably already knew or you already suspected. But anyway, so grab some food, some drink, get comfortable, and let's get on with the show, shall we? Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, because I usually do talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, there are vampires involved, that's right. This is running Ravenloft as a one-shot for Halloween. Did you want to do that? Well, I'm going to explain how to go about doing this. And I've tried to make it as simple as possible and as easy as you can possibly imagine, so that nobody can screw it up. Like, you can't have any problems. That's no guarantee, of course, with everything that we do in the world. It's possible to mess things up, but this is my advice to you with regarding running the original Ravenloft. I'm going to go straight for the original Ravenloft. I do have some notes on how to use the Curse of Strahd if you have the Curse of Strahd and don't want to try and get the original Ravenloft either as a PDF or the original adventure. So how do you run the original Ravenloft adventure as a one-shot when it's such a long adventure? Like, that's quite difficult, okay? Because it's still 35, 40 pages, 45 pages long. Well, you're not going to use everything. That's the first thing, is you simply don't use everything in the adventure. Most of it will not get used during your one-shot, and you don't attempt to do so, okay? It's just there as notes for if they go in a particular direction. You could also use a small part of the Curse of Strahd if you're going to do this, but you're only going to really use the main castle, the Ravenloft castle, because essentially that's identical to the original Ravenloft adventure that was put out. So that's what you focus on. You can use some of the other stuff that's around it, but only if the players go off on a strange tangent. Get the player characters to Ravenloft Castle as quickly as possible. Whatever you're doing with your adventure as a one-shot, that is your key motivation, is you need to get them to the castle fast. Use the 3 stages of any kind of storytelling. So that is your beginning, your middle, and your end. Your end will be your climax, and I'll explain each stage. You can have the player characters start at level 1 or at level 5. I don't think it really matters too much. I'm going to recommend having them start at level 1 so that a straight out fight is just not feasible. We don't want them to just go in and engage in a battle with Strahd straight away. In fact, we want them to be terrified of the possibility. We want them to try to escape in some way. The players determine what parts of the adventure are going to be run by the Dungeon Master. So I know I've seen a lot of people give advice on how to do this, but instead of the Dungeon Master forcing them down a route and trying to follow a particular storyline and a certain number of events and certain locations, forget about all of that. Okay, we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons where players make choices and then they have to live with those choices, and we want them to do this with Ravenloft as well. And so you're going to let them direct the story as much as possible, but there are going to be some provisos. So by getting the players to make choices, they will determine where you go, okay, with regard to exploring the castle and potentially some of the other locations around the castle, but you don't have a lot of time, so you can't muck around. The beginning. So how do you begin? I want you to start your adventure with the characters travelling to Castle Ravenloft in the black carriage, or any kind of carriage, okay? They're going there for a particular reason. Feel free to describe the travel through the mist or through the gates into the land of Borovia. You can also describe and tell them a little bit about the village as they pass by, the village of Borovia. And then you can even have them pass by a gypsy camp. And then they go to the castle. That is they have an appointment. They are supposed to be there. The adventure hook can be anything that you want to use. Frankly, you can use anything, but it must involve travelling to Castle Ravenloft, because that's what the whole story is all about. It's all about the encounter with Strahd in Castle Ravenloft. The player's characters can choose to stop at the village of Borovia if they want to ask questions and explore, but they can't be late for their appointment. So if they don't get to their appointment on time at the castle, well, that just ruins everything for us, okay? Then we have to change the way we do everything. So have them, as soon as you get an hour, you've got an hour left of your session, the last hour of your session, they must leave the Borovia village and head off towards the castle, because they will be late for their appointment. They have a dinner invite with Strahd at Castle Ravenloft, so they must be there on time. The same thing applies to any player characters who choose to stop at the gypsy camp. If they decide they want to do that, okay, they can have their fortune told by Madam Ava, but that's something you still need to remember. If you've only got an hour left of your session, you definitely need to make sure that they leave, okay, and go to the castle. That is absolutely, apparently, probably the most important thing to remember. Other than that, they can do whatever they want. The adventure hooks. What sort of adventure hooks could you use? Well, I'm going to suggest that Strahd invites the player characters to dinner as a friendly gesture and with a promise of some sort of wealth. If you can't get them just as a friendly gesture, then offer some money. Offer them some wealth. The Burgomaster of Borovia has hired their characters to save his daughter, Irina, from Strahd. And Strahd has Irina in the castle, and so you have to go there. Strahd hires the characters to find some missing children from Borovia. Children have been going missing, we don't know why, and when they actually get to Castle Ravenloft, Strahd will reveal that he thinks it's werewolves that have stolen the children during the dinner. And then, of course, that will be their quest to go and deal with the werewolves. This is just to represent that maybe Strahd is sick and tired of the werewolves interfering with his plans, and he's decided to wipe them out and use the player characters to do that. But they're never going to get a chance because he's probably going to kill them. It's all a ruse. It's all a deception. The last one I'm going to suggest is the fortune teller, Madam Ava, requests that the characters kill Lord Strahd in her land of Borovia and offers a bounty to do so. And the reason for this is to save the Vastini children, okay, from the same fate of her people, because every Vastini in Borovia is bound to Strahd and must basically be a servant. And she doesn't want the children of her people to be under the same sway. And that would be a really good way of sort of building it in and continuing on the story. The next one is, let's go with the middle. What do we do in the middle? The player characters are going to arrive at Castle Ravenloft and get introduced to Lord Strahd over dinner. Strahd presents the false persona of a misunderstood lord, willing to help the characters and doesn't understand why everybody hates him. Okay, we're not going to present him as I am an outwardly evil individual. We're going to trick them. The player characters explain their visit to Strahd's castle, whatever the reason is, whatever hook you decided to use, and Strahd offers to help them in the morning. So even if they've come to actually kill Strahd, Strahd will explain, like, maybe I can have a discussion with the townsfolk or Madam Ava and explain that actually, I totally understand where she's coming from, and if we can sort out any misunderstanding, then sweet, let's do that. Let's do that in the morning. But unfortunately, there's a bad storm after dinner, and it develops quite quickly, and the characters are offered a room to stay and sleep in till the morning. Like, there's a place to stay here. You're welcome to stay. And the reason being is you really can't go and leave because the storm is so bad that even the carriage ride would be dangerous. So, the best thing is to stay in the castle overnight. When the player characters are in their bedrooms, they will hear strange sounds and noises, odd things will start to happen, and dark things or creatures will try to break into their bedroom and kill them. This will force the player characters to freely explore the castle. We want them to go anywhere they want to go, till Strahd actually confronts them, and we're going to actually build this in. Ultimately, the players determine what encounter locations you will run, and you will not be running everything. You'll just be running what they actually decide to explore. And the end of this, like how do we actually end this? Because we've got to finish on time. No matter what happens or what is currently happening, Strahd von Zarovich must confront the player characters if they have not confronted Strahd already. Okay? Strahd will attack the player characters after giving a brief conversation or having a brief conversation, revealing his true nature and motivations. I don't mean a monologue. Okay? This is not an opportunity for them to get in a quick strike on Strahd, but he will then reveal his true motives to them. It can be as short as 1 or 2 sentences, people, and then you can go into whatever will be a battle. Essentially, there is going to be a fight. Now, when you bring in Strahd, this is going to take place on a timer. And this timer is 45 minutes to 60 minutes before the session is scheduled to end. So if you only have 2 hours, it's going to happen in the last hour. This is when the Strahd battle will take place. If you have 3 hours, it'll be in the last hour. So you play for 2 hours and then Strahd shows up, or in the last 45 minutes. If you have 4 hours to play, so it's always going to work, no matter what. The only time it won't work is if you have a session that's only an hour long. Okay, and if you're trying to do a one-shot in 1 hour, I can't help you. Now, conclusion. What's going to happen ultimately once they confront Strahd? Well, 2 things probably. Strahd is defeated and the quest achieved, so the player characters can leave Borovia. Or the player characters are sucked dry by Strahd and join a long line of tormented souls, and Strahd is victorious again. And that's essentially it. It's as simple as you can imagine. It doesn't require lots of changing things. You don't have to get too complicated about any of this. Make it simple for yourself. Don't make it difficult. Now, I'm hoping that this was useful to you and you found it helpful. If you have some advice you would like to offer, or you have questions, put them in the comments section and let me know. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. All right, give me a second. I'm going to come back to my webcam and we will have a discussion, people. I may have to move things around a little bit because I've got my microphone right smack in front of my monitor. I just don't know where to put the monitor and the camera, and like maybe I just need to put the microphone on an arm to get it out of the way of the screen and off to the side or something. I don't know what else to sort of do, but yeah. I'll figure that one out. It's the last of my technical issues I would imagine I have to deal with. Anyway, I'm going to have a drink of water. I'm then going to go through chat and have a discussion with you. I imagine there are people who have already run The Curse of Strahd or Ravenloft, the original adventure, as a one-shot, and we'll have advice here for you, so stick around. And let's have a look at the quiz. Let's have a look at the poll in a second. Let me just say hi to everybody. So Todd is here, who's a patron. I just said hi to you. Hopefully you're not doing too much. Ski Dog, how's it going, Ski Dog? How are you? Welcome to the stream. And we have Agile Monk. Agile Monk is a patron as well. He's also one of my moderators. And yes, he supports me on Patreon so I can keep doing this sort of thing. And thank you. We have Whiskey Film Studios. Whiskey Film Studios. Hello, welcome to the stream. And Pale Rider. How's it going, Pale Rider? You've only played the old Advanced Dungeons & Dragons version. Well, I've played the old Advanced Dungeons & Dragons version. Pardon me. I've played the old version. And I actually think that it's not that different to what they have in The Curse of Strahd. It's very similar. Very, very similar. I don't really think that they've done that much in the way of changing anything. Maybe some of the DCs may have changed, but frankly, I didn't think that there was any significant change. I actually felt like it was pretty much the same. The only thing they've done is they've added more. There's just more than there was before. Now there really isn't. I don't believe there is a difference in the story. I think they tried to keep it as true to the original as possible. Okay. Now, where am I? I'm just going to just make sure I got everything right here because I'm suspicious. Oh, by the way, the best way to support me continuing is on Patreon. For those of you who don't know, always the best way to keep this going is there. RPG Ski. I think that means I'm pretty sure that Ski Dog is a patron as well. I think that's you. Correct? You'll let me know, Ski Dog. I'm pretty sure you are a patron as well. Okay, so what have you got here, Agile Monk? I'm honestly not a fan of either and set them aside a long time ago. I kind of get it. You have to understand, I have had players who did not want to play through the Curse of Strahd or play Ravenloft, and other people who loved the idea. So not everybody's going to want to engage in this. And that's fine. That's all right. Just make sure you have a session 0 and have a discussion around it. Esteban. Is it Esteban? Hello, Esteban. You let me know if I pronounced your name correctly or not. I am narrating Curse of Strahd. Curse of Strahd. Are you? You're narrating Curse of Strahd? Really? For a book? Is that what's going on there? I'm not entirely sure what that means. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I do. That's right. I do charge practically nothing, and you do get a lot. There are 5 live streams that cover all sorts of things, and then yeah, there's all the rest. But let's go into just at least talking about the adventure, The Curse of Strahd, because that's why you're here in the first place. Now, I am tempted to pull out the book and shift to a screen and kind of show you that it's essentially the same. Like, there isn't really much else going on here. But let's go to the poll first. Let's have a look at what people have to say here. Have you played the Ravenloft adventure for Dungeons and Dragons? Now, that could, yes, 20% out of 10. No, 50%. Okay, there's quite a few people who haven't played it yet. So you'll be dungeon mastering it. You can't be a player here and be watching this, surely. And then you've got Curse of Strahd, 10%, okay, partly 20%. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So there's about half of you that haven't. So five people out of the 10 haven't. Okay, that's fine. And that means you'll be running it as a one-shot. Well, that would be my guess, right? That's the intention behind all of this, is you're going to run it as a one-shot for your group and have as much fun with it as you possibly can. Okay, like, yep. I'm a DM and not playing this module. No, and you would be silly to be jumping into a stream that says running Ravenloft as a one-shot for Halloween. Pretty much, that means there's going to be spoilers. Does that not? I'm pretty sure that means there's going to be spoilers. Okay, let me just see if my my screen will work the way I want it to. If I can move that cable out of the way, I will. I will shuffle this over to the side just a fraction. What's over this way? This is, what is that? That's just the edge of the table. That means that I can actually grab this book, which will be upside down, which is no good to anybody if it's upside down, but we will do our best to actually see if I can readjust the screen a little bit, like that. And I can zoom. Oh, no, don't do that. Just give me a second, people. And there. I think I have it pretty much positioned. Now, I'm pretty sure I can flip this. I wonder if I can flip it upside down in the middle of a live stream? I can. Okay. So this will obviously be how I do book presentations in the future, people. You're about to see what's going to happen. But I've got the Curse of Strahd rather than the original adventure. And as I said, I don't believe that the adventure is actually that much different. There's just more of it than there was before. Right, drink of water, and we'll have a little quick look at it. Okay, all right. So switching over to the other camera. Capel, like so. There we go. There you can see it. This is Cursor Strahd. But you can still use Cursor Strahd for what you were wanting to do. That's not really the issue at all, okay? So as I flip through here, I'm going to sort of point out that really most of what you get, the first chapter, is what you would normally find in the original Ravenloft. Most of that's there, you know, you can still do the card reading, people. Like there's the Fortunes of Ravenloft. You still do the card reading with the Taroka deck or with normal pack of cards if you want. Still do that, but it doesn't mean that the players will have time to find everything, okay? And it also means that the players won't necessarily find Strahd in the location allocated by the cards, because on your timer in the last 45 to 60 minutes of your session, Strahd must show up wherever the players are at whatever time. If they're in the middle of a battle, then that's when he shows up. Like, that's a bad thing, I know. Now, when I say I recommend level 1, most of the time when I say this, it's because my group are really, really powerful and they're very experienced, and level 1 characters in their hands are deadly. Okay. I could not, if you try to put level 5 characters, 4 to 5 level 5 characters up against Strahd, a vampire, he just won't last. He just won't survive, okay? Many people have taken out Strahd at level 5 in 5e. 5e is a different animal. The village of Borovia, you usually still had the information on the village of Borovia in the Ravenloft adventure, and then we go into the castle, and that's it. Like, the rest of it is all extra. Like, it's stuff that it wasn't actually in the original adventure. So let's go straight to page, is it 40? 49. 49. So there's the village of Borovia. That would have been, most of this would have been already in the original. They have fleshed it out a little bit more, okay, but most of it was already there in the original adventure. But this here, this chapter here, stays very true to the original. Like, you can be guaranteed that almost all of it is identical. Yep. I don't recommend running any random encounters. See, there's a random encounter chart for this castle. I wouldn't use them at all, okay? One of the things you'll find with horror is the more battles and combat you present to players, the less scary your whole session will be. So the best thing you can do is ignore the random encounters. Where would you start them off? So it should be pretty obvious where the dining room is, because the dining room is on the main floor. And it's right here. So here's map 3. This is the main floor. You have like 7 different staircases, I believe it is, to deal with, contending, that move up and down this whole thing. But is it area 10 is the dining room. So you lead them through the main entrance. They'll be brought in by one of Strahd's servants, and they'll have their meal in the dining room, and then later on, when the storm is bad, they'll be escorted up the stairs to one of the bedrooms. Now, the bedrooms that you want to use are way at the very top of the castle. That would be my advice. Now, the reason we do this is we're forcing them to go through as much of the castle as possible. There's actually a lot of empty rooms in this castle. Not everything has got something that's trying to kill them, and you don't need to include things that will. In fact, it's actually quite good if you don't do that. You will find your players will wind up with all sorts of different problems to contend with if you don't force combat onto them. One of the best things with horror, and if you want to scare people, is always present the concept of a threat, but never actually reveal it. If anybody's watched the original Spielberg Jaws movie, one of the things that made that movie so terrifying is that he didn't show you the shark. Like, you didn't get to see the shark. Okay, these are locations that I would use potentially for, I believe it is bedrooms. There's a couple of rooms up here on map 7. On the spires, I would use those as bedrooms. There are a couple more as well, but there's 2 bedrooms there, and they can sort of bunk up together. Like, that's, put them in the same place. If you find yourself coming across that elevator trap, I've never been able to figure out how the elevator trap works either, and so if you're finding it really complicated, just ignore it. There's an elevator there, and just don't do anything with it, okay? Sometimes that's the easiest way. But you'll find almost everything in here is identical to the original adventure. The only difference is you've got a bit different, the artwork is different. You're probably never going to get them to the tombs, and you're probably never going to wind up having to deal with the brides, okay? But you never know. It's still there as an option. I mean, some groups move faster than others when they're playing the game. Do you know what I mean? And so that would be my advice to you, is just deal with that location, because that's what they really showed up for in the first place. Yep. All right. So switching back, so you can kind of see that really the whole thing is almost identical. I can trust me, it's almost identical to the original Ravenloft adventure. Okay. Yeah, that elevator trap is quite silly, and it's really confusing. Like, so one of the things you're going to struggle with when you're having your players actually travel through the castle is because there are 7 different staircases. Some are circular, some are straight up and down. You're probably going to get lost at some point. So what you need to do is you want to mark down and separate the different staircases. So have sort of a key code for each staircase, and so that you know where they, and then have a look at which levels they actually lead to, because it's not like every single staircase leads to every single level. It's one of the more difficult aspects of it. I probably at some point should sit down and explain how to navigate the castle, but I still find it very difficult myself, and to explain to somebody else how to do that, I don't know that I'm ready to do that. So but look out for the future. If I finally figure out a good way of breaking it down for you, then I'll do that. But yeah, if you can isolate those 7 staircases, that'll make it easier for you to navigate through the whole thing. Now, you're probably wondering, why is the castle so it's like a maze, like it's very, very difficult to navigate. And that's because Castle Ravenloft is a depiction of Strahd's mind. And because it's a depiction of Strahd's mind, his mind is chaotic and maze-like, and so you can get lost in it very easily. So it's kind of like an analogy to the beast himself. I know a lot of people view Strahd as like a sympathetic, or that there should be pity for Strahd, or it's a tragic story. The problem is that, unlike Dracula, the story. So the Ravenloft and the Curse of Strahd is based off the Dracula story. It's really obvious, right? But one of the differences and definitive differences to Ravenloft and the Curse of Strahd compared to Dracula, where Dracula kind of did have sort of a tragic story behind what happened to him. That's not the same with Strahd, because Strahd is a depiction of what Margaret viewed as one of the most appalling men that she'd ever met. So Strahd is actually based off a real person, and she just made him a vampire. Now, I know this because I watched an interview with her quite a long time ago, and she talked about the fact that she'd met this nobleman. He's a nobleman, and he had a lot of wealth and a lot of power, and meeting him and talking to him, it was obvious that he was so narcissistic and so egotistical that and his view of women was so appalling that she used him as a template to create Strahd, and just ported the concept of the vampire on top of that, because he was essentially, as far as she was concerned, a predator. He was a predator. And preyed on women, and so this is why Arena is part of the story as well. It's not just because we want to take all the tropes from Dracula; it's because it's actually built around a person that Margaret actually used as a template for the main character. And you'll find that the original creators of this adventure, probably most of the impact and development of the whole concept is around one person in particular. And there are two writers, and if I can find them, and I think there's an entry in here. Here we go. If I can find it, we're a disclaimer. Okay. I was hoping I would be able to find it. So, Tracy Hickman and Laura Hickman actually were very much invested in the creation of Curse of Strahd. But as I said, Laura is the one who actually kind of built a lot of this out, the concepts. She's very much responsible for the Strahd character, and of course Tracy's helped flesh that out. So I just wanted to point that out to you. If you ever thought that Strahd was a sympathetic, misunderstood individual, no. We were going to present him as that, but he's not that at all. It's very confusing for players when that happens to them. Now, it looks to me like I might be able to finish up early because there are no questions, there is no feedback, and I actually, when I put this together, my intention was to make it as simple as possible for you to run. So I didn't actually have a lot of information for you because I figured if I threw too much information at you, you'd probably not be able to do it. And you've got to be able to prep this for a one-shot. Right? You've got to prep it for a one-shot. So the thing that you want to focus on is the 7 staircases, the main level, the top level where they're going to be sleeping, and then have an idea of how they would maneuver down from that location. I suppose you're wondering, well, what happens if they decide, because it's possible, right? What if they decide to not accept Strahd's offer and stay the night in the castle, and they decide to leave? Well, that's the problem with the entranceway. If you leave, you get attacked. Yep, you can't leave. Once you enter, you can't leave without those statues. There's 4 statues in the lobby of dragons, I believe, and they will attack you. So, not a great idea. I remember when I ran this, the original Ravenloft for my players, they actually defeated Strahd. They had a lot of problems along the way. And after they had defeated Strahd, as they're leaving the castle, they got attacked by the witches that they hadn't dealt with, that were outside waiting for them. And as they were trying to flee and get out of there, they had the dragon statues coming alive and attacking them from behind. So they had witches in the front, dragon statues attacking them from behind, and of course they all got wiped out, but they defeated Strahd. So it is possible to defeat Strahd and still die. Do you know what I mean? But you're still successful. As far as they were concerned, it's like, okay, we succeeded, but we did die. Just from a different manner. Now, I could have stopped the story there and then, but because we were taking existing characters and playing this through beyond Borovia, they were going to leave Borovia and continue their adventures doing something else. I didn't stop it there. Yeah. And in fact, they didn't actually stop. Did they stop playing that game or campaign? I can't remember. Junior Gomez, how's it going? Hello, how are you? So that's one problem. If they manage to get past the statues in the lobby and they decide they're going to leave, they've got the storm to contend with. So you could use a skill challenge for the storm, if you like. They could go somewhere else, but no matter what, even if they leave the castle and don't accept Strahd's invitation to stay in the castle, wherever they go, Strahd is keeping an eye on them. And in the last 45 to 60 minutes of your session, because it's got to be a one-shot, we've got to finish it up, he will attack. He will confront them, throw himself at them, explain the process, and that's it. So you are always guaranteed that your one shot will actually finish. And frankly, I think you could use this strategy with any one shot. So if you're running an adventure and it's running long and you're thinking you're not going to get it finished, then use the timer concept. I'm glad you're in a great mood there, Junior Gomez. How are you? Doing great. Anyway. You've wanted to also, so Monk has always wanted to throw Strahd into the elevator trap. Well, that might be quite difficult, but that would be entertaining. Certainly it would be amusing. One of the things I suppose I should mention is in the future I will do some reviews of various books coming up, and I will be using the sort of same sort of setup that I just showed you before, where I will talk and flip through the book. It's one of the things I find frustrating is Wizards of the Coast is putting out a lot of books, and they're not that much fun. You know, they just don't seem to give you what you want. So I'm definitely going to be opting for doing some reviews in the dead period. I find around December, January, February, YouTube sort of just disappears as if people go off on holiday. So you'll see a lot of book reviews taking place during that period for those of you who are interested. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Since there are no questions and I've already told you how to do this as a one shot, I think we're done. Yeah. All right. So let's cycle myself out here, and I will go and do something else with my day. And so will you. And so will you. So I just want to say thank you to my patrons who support me on Patreon. I do appreciate it. I think this is the best way that you can support this channel by continuing. I want to thank everybody who was part of the live stream and took part. I do appreciate that. And for watching my live streams, that's really helpful too. Anybody who's been watching my edited videos, expect more of them. Don't worry. Live stream and edited videos, they're definitely coming. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. You're welcome, Ski Dog.